Glad to welcome James Monkey Schaefer, the guitarist, back from Korn today. And Monkey, I want to start it off today with actually an email that I got sent to me from one of your fans and listeners here. And they wanted to talk about the Music as a Weapon tour that you guys have been involved in earlier in the year. And wanted to know if this tour was kind of a call to arms for musicians to be more involved in the changing times that we've been going through in the world recently.
I think every little bit helps, you know? Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to, go out and change the world with a song or anything, but I think, if a band can bring some sort of awareness, a consciousness to an issue, whether it be political or social, I think it's important. But, I think Rage Against the Machine did a pretty good job, little by little, raising the awareness to political issues and social issues. I think a little bit it helps.
And Tom Morello still carrying on that torch a little bit there.
He's one of my heroes, man.
Thank you for answering that. Kind of a deep question, but that's okay. We appreciate when the listeners send us questions to ask the bands. Monkey, I read an interview recently where you said that this new album was therapeutic for you. I
just think that it's sort of just making a record with Ross Robinson can be, therapeutic in a way that, I don't know, he pulls out sort of the best and can pull out the worst.
Yeah.
And especially, the best and worst out of singers. Like, whoa, things that you didn't really know, like what's bothering you? What's wrong with you today?
Yeah.
And he'd really get down there and really go, layers and layers of what's really bothering you. And it can go all the way back to childhood.
All right, Monkey, hold that thought. I want to talk a little bit more about that in depth here, talking a little bit about how writing a new album can kind of be therapeutic for an artist. And even on your last album, Korn 3, Remember Who You Are, it seems like you guys kind of went back to your earlier time when you were still hungry and you were really striving to get to the next level. So I can see how that would be therapeutic for sure.
It is like that. I mean, even just that frustration right there is something to write about.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I'm frustrated because that's as far as I can go.
Right.
Okay, well then let's write about that.
Yeah.
Why are you mad at me?
Yeah.
So you elaborate on whatever's at the moment, and that's sort of the beauty of this album is that we elaborated on every second that we were recording. We were able to develop each idea, I think, to its fullest.
And we talked a little bit about Korn 3, Remember Who You Are, and one great thing about that album was you had no label deal, yet no time constraints were put on the band either.
I think, it did enhance the whole experience. There wasn't anybody sitting over our shoulders sort of telling us, oh, we need that one song to hit the radio.
Yeah.
And it really helps with the whole creative process, and it becomes more enjoyable. And I think, that's what it's about.
Right.
We make records because we love to.
Yeah.
It's fun. And, at the same time, we didn't really know, who's going to want this?
Yeah.
And there's always that kind of like,
right.
And then you got to remind yourself, oh yeah, we're Korn, we spent 15, 16 years making a name for ourselves. So there was always that, what are we going to do with it when it's done?
Yeah.
In the back of your head. But mainly it was about making a great record, and that's sort of not having someone looking over our shoulders. What helped create, that creative process.
Well, I hear you. Now, Monkey, I want to ask you kind of a personal question here. If you and the rest of the guys from Korn did not have music as an outlet to express your emotions, how do you think you would get them out there?
I think probably some, painting.
Yeah.
I think art in some form.
Probably be miserable, wouldn't you?
Definitely be miserable or dead.
Or in jail.
On my way to dead, being miserable.
Right.
Or jail, which is just as bad.
I like it. Even with the lineup changes the band has kind of been through, when you really break it all down, the core of Korn is still Jonathan's voice, Fieldy's bass, and of course your guitar, Monkey.
I think the core has remained the same, and it's the approach,
Yeah.
It's like, it's a formula that still works for us creatively.
Right.
And it's just, it's not some scientific method or a formula.
Yeah.
It's just us getting in a room and sort of sparking ideas off of each other until you see that really big flame that like, oh wow, and then you kind of feel everybody's energy in the room rise, and you start to get excited for other people to hear it, and then you have something that's that you think is great, and it still has we still layer upon it and build upon those ideas. But essentially it's us getting in the room, building riffs, and letting Jonathan write his lyrics and sing melodies over it, and that's how it's been.
Now, I wanted to go back and talk about your last album, Korn 3, Remember Who You Are. Now, my first listen, I instantly recognized that earlier Korn sound. I mean, was that something you guys were shooting for from the very beginning?
You know what? There was sort of like an idea. Everyone sort of has an idea when they come into the studio, and once we got started, we sort of, all those ideas sort of went out the door.
Right.
And we just said, let's just start capturing little bits and pieces and building on them. But it was very comfortable in the room. I mean, for me, maybe not for Ray. for him, as far as having Ross, a producer.
Yeah.
Ross is known for being very hard on drummers.
Right.
And being, the newest member of the band, and Ray had sort of a tall task, and that Ross really gave him hell.
Yeah,
yeah. But you know what? Ray's a great professional drummer person, and he persevered and proved himself, not only to him, I think, to Ross and the band, but to himself, because he was doing things that he really wasn't used to doing, which is sort of playing without click track and trying just crazy techniques that really pushed his boundary, I think, as a player, and really helped the songs for the record come alive.
Now, Monkey, I wanted to ask you about new technology available to you today that you wish you had when you guys first started out.
I mean, just as as a guitar player, like YouTube is so killer for guitar players.
Yeah.
Because you could look up anything and find how to play it 120 ways.
Right.
And I wish I had that when I was learning, because now I'm still looking. Now I'm starting to find myself looking up different sites, and I wish I had that when I was learning how to play it. But I'm using it now.
I wanted to ask you, coming from a technology standpoint, can you tell us why you still prefer to use tape to record on instead of the digital means as so many other musicians use?
I think it does something to the spontaneous creative process that you really can't get.
Yeah.
Because a digital tape, you can edit it so easily.
Right.
You can sort of go back over it and make your corrections and make everything pristine and perfect.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of tape is that it's an organic feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It captures you in the moment.
Right.
And the imperfections of the recording are captured as people. Everybody has imperfections, and it starts to feel more organic and less robotic, I guess.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We were talking a little bit about your preference while you're recording the new album to work more with tape than the digital means, and it seems like I remember we had a drummer on the show one time said, if you listen closely to some of these classic albums, you can actually hear the squeak of a drum pedal and imperfections like that.
It adds that sort of characteristics that each person has as people, as imperfections as we are.
Right.
That's the beauty of each person, is that we're all different, and that's the beauty about using tape, is that it's those little imperfections that make it great.
I think I'm just going to start listening really, really close just to see if I can find the imperfections on maybe some of those great albums like Led Zeppelin 4 or AC/DC's Back in Black, stuff like that,
Yeah, and even you think about Led Zeppelin, how many times have those drums been used, and there's a lot of imperfections that if those drums were recorded these days, they would have fixed.
Absolutely.
Because they were just like, okay, throw the mics up, let's go. Let's do it. It's about capturing energy and capturing a vibe, I think.
Totally.
That's what, the beauty of tape is.
Monkey, I heard something about a little side project that you were working on, so what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, a record that I worked on about 2 years ago with Brooks Wackerman, who's a Bad Religion drummer.
Yeah.
And Billy Gould, who plays bass with Faith No More for years. Myself, a guy named Steve Krolikowski, who's from a band called Repeater. Another producer named Leopold Ross, and also another producer named Jim Monty, who worked on our recent albums as an engineer and also producing. Zach Baird, who plays keyboards with us, touring keyboards with us,
is with you on this.
Yeah, we all collaborated on this sort of, it was just really something for me to kind of fill up time, and the people that were involved really put 110% into each whatever they did. And now it's almost done. We're mixing it, and I've tried to keep a tight lid on it because I want it to be, I wanted to have some sort of significance when it's released. And it's some recordings I did that I'm really proud of, and the people that were involved are great, talented people, and I can't wait for people to hear it.
Oh, me too. I'd love to hear it, and as soon as you can get us something, we'll play it right here on the Rock 30, Monkey. You guys are working on the new album, and I read some new material. Will you describe as a little bit of the Soundgarden style, that sort of Seattle sound? So that's kind of cool from Korn. So maybe talk about that.
Yeah, well, I think, I so maybe misquoted. And it was, it's kind of hard for Korn to sound like anything else but Korn.
Right.
But I think, more or less is what I meant was it had, there was a certain moment when I was listening to it that it had a feeling of like that sort of grunge, not even the sound, but a feeling. Not even necessarily, it didn't really sound like it. Somebody asked me, and that just kind of came out.
Well, here we are, the 20th anniversary of the song Smells Like Teen Spirit and Nirvana's legendary album Nevermind. Music just kind of goes through cycles, so maybe it's time for a little bit of that grunge comeback, if you will.
Even, I was listening to a radio station the other day, and they were playing Crazy Train. I was like, oh my God, this song's 30 years old, and they're playing it on the modern rock station. And I was like, this is great. It's really a timeless song, timeless record, that whole Diary of a Madman.
Sure.
And, it's just really, it is, like you said, it's a 20-year cycle, and it's again, art, inspiring art to sort of help whatever, the movement, the revolution of music that we all try to set out to do, because this is the vision you have in your mind and your heart when you go to create a band. You're out to make a revolution. You're out to burn the city down.
Sure.
And that's still alive, I think, in almost everybody that plays music.